are not really expecting Aaron Rodgers to come back. So
No.
there's a piece of me that believes that it's, Aaron Rodgers' time in Green Bay is done. I've gotten everything from, hey, it's Jordan Love's turn now, to it's a full rebuild mode for Green Bay. So there's a lot that's going to be said for that. You know what
Well,
I mean?
let's
I
keep
kind
in
of
mind, his
it's time for
offensive
Green Bay to move again.
Nathaniel Hackett, who was his offensive coordinator at Green Bay, is now the Jets offensive coordinator. So you got that fit there.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
likes Nathaniel Hackett a lot by our reports. So that could be a plus. But listen, let's not forget what Nathaniel Hackett did for Russell Wilson last year.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think Russell Wilson was a good fit, and I already told you what my opinion was about Russell Wilson moving from Seattle. Last year I thought that Russell was on the downside. Now I think Russell could be better than what he was this year, but I think that it's not. That's not. You know, he's going to need some more help, and ultimately he's got to refocus. I think, but I don't think he's going to be anywhere near as good as he was before. Uh, Aaron Rodgers has got a little bit better skills at this time right now, and I think that him going to the Jets may be a better fit because I feel that they have the better weapons. I also am a big fan of Joe Douglas. I think that Joe will put him in a position to succeed, and I think again it goes more to the offensive line. So I think that he'd be better protected. Yeah.
Well, Russell Wilson this year was catered to. He has his own office. He had his own trainer there. He had everything that you could want as a quarterback. He had at his disposal. That's not going to happen with Sean Payton. When Sean Payton comes in here, I heard the office is already closed to him, and he's going to come and he's going to be a member of the team. He's done great jobs with older quarterbacks, with Drew Brees. I think Russell Wilson is getting his pack set. He's getting a
How
little.
long was he with Drew Brees?
I think he was good with Drew
Long
Brees.
time with Drew Brees.
Yeah.
He was long time with Drew Brees. He wasn't. Drew Brees wasn't old when he had him. So it's like it's not. You're saying, oh, he was better with older quarterbacks. But he had Drew Brees for like 12 years or 10 years, and they won one Super Bowl.
Well, some
So
people.
I mean, I understand Sean
Some
Brady
coaches don't.
was
Some
looked at as
coaches
this
don't.
god.
Some
Wait,
coaches.
Pax, remind Matt.
Some coaches don't win one Super Bowl in their whole career, Pags. And when I mentioned Drew Brees, I'm talking about when he got older, and he was old at the time of the Super Bowl is when he did well, and that's what I'm saying. And I think Russell
No, he
Wilson.
wasn't old. When they won the Super, no, he was younger then. He got him when he was young, and eventually, when you're with the quarterback for more than a decade, so he becomes older by
That's
years.
what I just said. That's what I just said, Chad.
No, you made it seem like he adopted an old quarterback, and then
I did not say that. I did not say that at all. I said when he went to the Super Bowl, he was an older quarterback. I think he was like 38 or something when he went to the Super Bowl.
No, when he went to the Super Bowl,
He was not.
All right, I'll give you the number. I'll give you the
All right.
number.
Thank you. Russell Wilson is an older quarterback.
So I believe
Drew Brees by the time
Right.
he went to the Super Bowl,
that's the two things. The two things that he has in common with
29 or thereabouts. I'm just estimating his age.
yeah is that he's older and he's short.
Yes.
So, but I think I'll be honest. I think Russell Wilson's past his time, and that Sean Payton is going to be able to do whatever he can. He's going to be better than he was last year, but that's not going to be saying much.
He has to live
The bar is set pretty low if that's the case.
Pax Mac Doc, because Russell Wilson has this guaranteed big contract still.
Looks like Drew Brees was 31 in 2010.
31.
All right.
when he won the Super Bowl, you mean?
That's
So
what
we
it looks
split
like. Yeah.
So we
I'm
split
trying
the
to catch it on a
difference.
little
He
phone.
had him a few years before that.
You're saying so we split the difference. You guys were saying he was
No,
young.
I'll split the difference. He
We're
said
splitting the
38. I
difference.
said 29. That's not splitting the difference. Come on. But the point is, Matt Pax, you could gloat because you and Matt Pax got into a big argument last year about Russell Wilson, and Mac put you in your place, at least he thought, by saying that Russell Wilson is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL still. He was saying to you in the preseason, and you said Russell Wilson has very little left in the tank.
Well,
Okay.
Russell Wilson has plenty left in the tank, Jack. You're talking about a Hall of Famer who's going to a team that has great weapons. You got a running game. You got some wide receivers that are very good, a great defense, and I think they're going to make a charge this year in the AFC West. You may not think so.
So you're saying to Pags, you're holding to what you said last season, preseason. Russell Wilson's going to be one of the top quarterbacks this upcoming year.
I'm just saying he'd be top 10. Say he'd be a top 10 quarterback this year.
Yeah, I bet you that is not the case.
Well, right now,
but that's okay. I know that
right
we,
now,
we know who's the better football guru. When I make a statement, I'm usually right, and you guys are usually wrong.
Right now. Right now in the NFL, name 9 quarterbacks that are better than Russell Wilson.
I'm doing it right now.
Well, start playing the Super Bowl. Yeah, and then I can go with let's go with Joe Burrows,
I'll give you
Allen, Rodgers. So we're already at that's 5, right? And then you can go I mean, I would even say right this second, Dak Prescott is better.
Okay.
I could go as far as, I don't know if I put Daniel Jones.
Cousins is better at this moment.
Oh, don't stop.
I'll go a step further.
Now you're just saying anything.
Is Daniel Jones better
at this moment? Even Lamar Jackson is certainly better.
Who?
Yeah, actually, even the quarterback over in Cleveland. The quarterback over in Los Angeles, both the Rams and the Chargers.
Watson won a lot of games. Dallas choked again. Cut out.
Let me ask you this question.
Hold on. And how many games did Russell Wilson win this year? Let's be for real now.
Yeah,
so he won like 5 games.
And
Come on.
Was that?
You can talk how much you want to.
And was that his fault? And was that Russell Wilson's fault? Was that Russell Wilson's fault? You look at the head coach.
What, that they start this year? Yeah, a lot of it was his fault.
Oh my God. You guys just don't like Russell Wilson. That's all.
Mac, Jalen Hurts is better than him now. Even Daniel Jones, you could say,
this is his 3rd year, Jack.
You'll say you put Russell Wilson ahead of Jalen Hurts right now?
Not now. No.
That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about career achievement. We're just talking about right now. If you're talking about career achievement, okay, you're making some good points. But we're talking about how good they are right now.
Right. I agree with it.
So Melissa says, when we're asking how many quarterbacks are better than Jamie Wilson, Melissa says, all of them.
Well, there you go. That's really intelligent.
She also says, Jamie.
Yeah, she always does.
All right. So let's keep on the Russell Wilson topic. I was trying to make my list. I had Joe Burrows, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers. I put Brett Scott on my list. I was asking about Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts. That's 7 guys. I don't know yet. We'd have to really start digging down and seeing some.
Well, you got Bradford. You have the other one in LA. What's his face? The kid.
Who's Bradford?
Yeah. You mean Herbert?
Yeah. Well, Herbert's the one. Stafford, not Bradford.
Stafford.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
Stafford.
Hey,
you got Kirk Cousins.
Whoa. Even Geno Smith is ahead of Russell Wilson right now. Look how much better he was for Seattle than Russell Wilson was.
He's a 1-year wonder, Jack. He's a 1-year wonder. It's a 1 year wonder. Russell.
We're not talking
Let's keep
about
on the
careers.
Russell Wilson because we have a Russell Wilson question here.
Right.
I have to find it. Last season, Russell Wilson had his own personal trainer with him at the team complex. Mac brought this up. New Denver coach Sean Payton says that only members of his staff will be allowed into the facility.
That's right.
Do you think there should ever be exceptions for athletes in any of the major sports to have basically their own trainers and their own people in there? So this is something that really started coming out in the late 90s, mid 90s, and sort of goes back and forth with certain players. They have their certain people who they work out with or whatever. I'm going to say if you're trying to build a culture of excellence that's all around a team and a philosophy, you need all of the players on that team to be part of that same philosophy and that same regiment. Right. So if you're building a team, you have to believe that your guys are the ones who know how to best get players ready to perform within your system. And so I would say, no, you want to work out with somebody outside of the building, that's your own business. But, during working hours, you're going to be working here with us and with our guys, and you're going to do what they say you're supposed to do because this is our team and this is the way it goes. I think when you have a quarterback, I think that was one of the things that, we talked about this early in the season when Tom Brady wasn't going to practices and stuff like that. I don't think that does anything to help a team develop a sense of unity, a sense of purpose, any cohesion, because they're not all working together. So I would say absolutely not. It's my team. These are my trainers. This is my program. You can keep your trainers and your other people out of there. You can see them in the off season. That's what I would say. What do you guys say?
I agree with you, but there are exceptions with certain superstar athletes. The ideal situation would be to hire that trainer and let him be part of the staff technically, even though the vast majority of his work is going to be with that superstar athlete. You're talking about a Tom Brady, a Michael Jordan, a LeBron James. Let's say LeBron James has his own trainer who, stretches him out all the time. Has been with him for years. To force him to work with the other trainers who he doesn't have confidence in, who might not know his body the same way, it's kind of sticky. I would make exceptions with true superstar athletes. I would, because let's face it, the culture's different with these type athletes. But you have to know where to draw the line. You're not going to want a bunch of different people in your facility. And if the superstar athlete is cooperating with the organization, you hire this guy on your staff, but you have the understanding, as I said, he predominantly works with that one athlete. And
let me push back a little bit. And I was just going to look up the names of the players on the Chiefs or the Eagles or whatever, and I don't know them well enough. But let's just follow your philosophy, and we'll go to a team that I think we're all somewhat familiar with. Like the New York Giants from when they won the Super Bowls all those years ago. So it's okay then.
They would go to the Super Bowl. They should be the example.
Well, I don't know enough of the players off the top of my head. But what you're saying is Phil Simms could have his own trainer. Yes?
What, his own trainer? You know what the problem is in a situation like that? No. It's not cut and dry. That Giant team with Phil Simms, LT, this guy, that guy, there were so many top of the line players.
Well, this is my point. So Phil Simms can have his own trainer. LT can have his own trainer. Harry Carson can have his own trainer. Then you don't have a team.
Yes. Certain guys you kind of overlook a little because of the. Let me give you another one. Michael Jordan. Are you going to tell Michael Jordan, no, Michael, you can't have your own trainer. You got to work out with our guys in the facility.
So Scottie Pippen gets his own trainer too?
Jordan and Pippen are a different class from the rest of the guys.
So now you're going to say, Jordan, you get your own trainer with Scottie Pippen, you don't?
No, you sit down with Jordan and Pippen and you let them know their trainer, you're going to hire him on the staff. But the problem is sometimes you have a philosophy with your trainers on the staff that could clash with the other trainers. It's a very difficult situation. I don't have a clear answer.
Jack, your boy Aaron Rodgers is treated differently, right? I mean, he's an exception to the rule. So you're going to go to some of the other Green Bay players and say, well, you can't have that exception, but you're going to give Aaron Rodgers an
They know there were exceptions. Even Jeff Coates said he would show up at Aaron Rodgers' door and beg him to come play for his team. But players would do that to get Aaron Rodgers to play for them. They would get on the airplane and show up at his door. But Aaron Rodgers is not going to get on the plane and fly to someone's home and knock on the door unless it's a star wide receiver.
See, I just think it becomes very difficult to then say, who's the next? Was it Charles Oakley? Was he on the Bulls teams?
No, he's not a star. He was with the Bulls to the Knicks. From the Bulls to the Knicks. He wasn't. It's a danger.
How about the other guy, the big defender guy who had all the jewelry and the tattoos? What was his name?
Dennis Rodman.
Yeah. So he get his own trainer?
These guys are loose cannons. Dennis Rodman, for example, is a loose cannon.
But how do you say this guy, you're a superstar, you're not quite a superstar, you're almost a superstar, but you can't have your own trainer? I think it breaks up the team cohesion, no?
But the bottom line is you want the guy to perform. Tom Brady's the best case. He had his own trainer. He clashed with Bill Belichick and the Patriots. That was in part one of the reasons he left New England, maybe a small one. But they kept arguing about Brady having his own trainer who followed him to Tampa, and they were very successful. So you mean to tell me you're forcing Tom Brady to listen to other physical trainers and not the guy of his choosing? Doc, you run, for example. Let's say you're an elite world-class runner.
I am.
And you have your own. You have your own coach, and you're going to the Olympics. Now you got to listen to all these other Olympic coaches and not your coach. You got to follow their program and not the one the coach set up for you where you were so successful.
I think it's different if you're an Olympic athlete and you're a person who is running an event that's a singular event than if you're part of a team. So if I'm running the 400 meters, I can have my own coach because it's all about me. But if I'm running the 400-meter relay or something like that, that's got to be one coach for all four of those guys because they need to be on the same page. In fact, we've seen that in the Olympics, right? Where teams can't pass the baton to the next person because they're not on the same page because they're, for whatever reason. You need to have one coach or a series of coaches on the same staff all working together to give one message to that group. If you have different messages, then the baton gets dropped.
Let me ask Pags this. Joel Embiid, for example, okay, maybe the best single athlete or player if you pro-rate sports in Philadelphia today, Joel Embiid. If Joel Embiid insists on having his own trainer, someone he has tremendous faith in, and he wants to show up at the facility, work with Joel Embiid, are you going to tell Joel Embiid, no, you can't? Because I'm going to tell you, if you don't allow Joel Embiid that luxury that means a lot to him, he's already headed towards the door. You know, I mean, there are a lot of repercussions involved in this.
What do you think, Max?
So well, now you're changing sports all the way around. You know, like, so now we went from football to basketball. Yeah, but it's not any sport, you know, because in basketball, you could have your own personal trainer and do yourself. It's somebody who's doing a specific regimen and, you know, specific nutritionist. And it's a lot different, actually. You know, when in football, there is, you know, especially as a quarterback, you are expected to be the leader of the team. And there's a certain culture that is built around that specifically. When you are doing something over and above from what the rest of the team is doing, it becomes more difficult to be able to institute some of the things that a coach would like to institute. So that's why certain times trainers are a bad thing, they do try it, and it seems like more often than not, the coaches make a decision to get away from the personal trainer rather than allow that entity. And it doesn't matter whether it's Tom Brady, whether it's Russell Wilson, whether it's anybody, to allow that trainer to remain, because it does conflict, and that the other athletes that are there start to become like, well, he gets that, why don't I get it? And that's where it starts to become a cancer in the locker room.
Well,
I
Doc,
agree.
the Yankees had a lot of injuries, okay? Let's say one of the players, wants his own personal trainer, doesn't believe in the guys the Yankees hired. There was a controversy with the Yankees trainers, how good they were. They were getting fired, from what I recall. And someone has their own guy who's keeping them injury-free. You're going to say, oh, no, you got to work with our guys, not with him or her.
Watch. Here's the problem. Let's pretend that somehow we can go back in time, and you're saying only the superstars can have their own personal trainer. So let's say somehow I go back in time and I gather up all the great Yankees of all time, and I somehow collect them to be on the same team at the same time. Does Babe Ruth get a personal trainer?
Yeah.
Oh, Babe. Yeah, I mean, Babe.
Okay. Does Joe DiMaggio get a personal trainer?
Yes, those guys. I'd be on it.
Does Mickey Mantle get a personal trainer?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Does Lou Gehrig get a personal trainer?
No.
Yeah.
Does
No.
Yogi
No,
Berra
man.
get a personal trainer?
No.
Yogi's easy going. Yogi, you could talk out.
He
of him.
asked for
Yogi
one though.
won't
Everybody
work
else
out.
has one. Yogi
I
wants
could
one.
draw the line with Yogi.
No, there
See,
only
here's the
could be
point.
one.
Now I have 17
There can
different
only- there
trainers in
can
the
only-
locker room.
There can only be one exception, and that would be Babe Ruth. That would be it.
See, I say nobody. You train. You're a team. You build a cohesion, a cohesive unit as a team.
You can be cohesive. The guys.
But then you go out the opposite way. So you're talking about Babe Ruth being the one exception, except his trainer's a bartender. Now, is it okay? I mean, because let's be for real. You know what I mean? Let's be for real. The trainer's going to matter
Well,
something.
for real, that might be true because he did drink a lot, so that might have been his personal trainer back.
Could have been. Hey, you know what? We're at the top of the hour. I think we've gone around and around on that one. We're going to do some commercials, and then we'll come back on the other side. Jamie, how confident, before we go to commercials, are you that the Eagles are going to win tomorrow?
Very.
Yeah. Okay.
90% they're going to win, 86%, 52%, 99%. What do you think?
92.
92. All right. So you're going to be doing we were talking about this early before you came on. You're going to be part of the live stream tomorrow?
I'm going to try my best. It's going to be right around the time. I'm going to be in the stadium at that point. I know that they are doing everything they can to not allow people to stream from the stadium. So they have what's called like blockers and stingrays out there to block signals. So it may be difficult for me to try to get on, but I will do my best.
Even if it's halftime. Go ahead, Doctor. Even if it's at halftime.
Halftime is not going to happen because I'll be in the middle of taking pictures with everybody.
Okay.
If the Eagles are down 47-3 and you can get on, will you go on?
If they're down 47-3, no.
They won't be, but I just wanted to. We were asking that question beforehand. My friends, we're going to take a break now. We'll take everybody off the screen. We'll get to some commercials, and then we will be back in just a few moments.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, guys, any?
Pags, do you have a commercial to go on or no? Just shake yes or no.
Supporting the needs of our veterans. That's the goal of all of us at Team AmVets. Like Mitch, Carlos, and Kevin from our Welcome Home team that brings furniture to our vets.
We are Team AmVets.
Or Linda from our thrift stores who brings you great bargains every day.
I am Team AmVets.
And John, who picks up your thrift store donations that support California veterans programs.
I am Team AmVets.
Visit our website or a Team AmVets thrift store to donate or shop today.
Join the team!
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
When you are not watching or listening to the podcasts on Northeast Streaming Sports, what are you doing with your time? You should be reading. And the book you should be reading, well, at least after April 11th when it comes out, is Roy White's autobiography, From Compton to the Bronx, with a foreword by Marty Appel. The great New York Times best-selling author Ian O'Connor says Roy White is as dignified a Yankee as there's ever been. One of the many reasons a generation of fans, myself included, grew up imitating his stance. Paul Semendinger does a masterful job capturing the essence of the great left fielder. This is a must-read about the most underrated Yankee of all time. If you haven't had a chance, if you haven't pre-ordered Roy White, From Compton to the Bronx, do that now. We'll go back to some couple more commercials, and then we'll get back with the sports show.
My baloney has a first name, it's O-S-C-A-R. My baloney has a second name, it's M-A-Y-E-R. Oh, I love to eat it every day. And if you ask me why, I'll say, 'cause Oscar Mayer has a way with B-O-L-O-G-N-A.
Oscar Mayer, the first name in Bologna.
How's that?
When you drive to Wendy's and order a single, you get more beef than the Whopper or the Big Mac. At Wendy's, you never have to ask, where's the beef?
You know, one of the best things about being an ex-big leaguer is getting freebies to the game. Call the front office, bingo. And once these fans recognize me, I probably won't even have to pay for my light beer from Miller. Down it, I love them. These fans know I drink light because it's less filling and it tastes great. Good seats, huh?
You're in the wrong seat, buddy. Come on.
Oh, I must be in the front row.
Come on.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer and less.
Good seats, hey, buddy? He missed the tag! He missed the tag!
All right, so we are now back here with the Jack, Pags, and Paul debate show. Mac on his way back. And let's continue the discussions. So I thought it was a good discussion about the trainers. I just don't see how it's possible. Then you're going to alienate players. Well, you know, Scottie Pippen, you're pretty good, but you're not as good as Michael Jordan, so you can't have a trainer.
Wait. Let me make one point to contradict your argument, not to belabor the point. Pitchers, star pitchers, like a Steve Carlton. Tim McCarver was his private catcher. Randy Johnson had John Flaherty. He didn't want Jorge Posada. Same thing, guys. Certain star players, the iconic pitchers, if they want their own catcher, you're going to tell them no. It's not good for team morale. Whoever you have catching you, you have to accept that. I think it's the same principle applies.
Yeah, I've been against personal catchers, so there's your answer.
I'm not if you have a great pitcher who's earned that right, and he's going to pitch better with his own catcher, the guy of his choice. But that's maybe an argument for another time.
Maybe, yep. Because I'll disagree. Yeah, like Yankees. What if Nestor Cortez says, "I want a catcher"?
I'm talking about Nestor Cortez and Roger Clemens.
All right, so Garrett Cole. Does he get a catcher?
Garrett Cole, yes, you try to accommodate him, absolutely.
So Carlos Rodon?
He's not quite of that ilk yet.
Carlos, I know we're paying you $30 million a year. You're great, but you're not Garrett Cole. You get the catcher we give you. I think it just doesn't work. Let's go to the questions, my friends. We'll take let's go talk Super Bowl. Since the Super Bowl has come into existence, who's the best player who never played in the Super Bowl? Who's the greatest non-Super Bowl player ever? The answer might be Richard Todd, former quarterback of the Jets, but it's probably not. So who is the greatest player who never appeared in the Super Bowl since the Super Bowl era? Who wants to go?
I'll go first. I'd have to say Randall Cunningham. He was both. He was on the Eagles. He was on the Vikings. Played great. Was a great quarterback. Jim Jeffcoat even talks highly of the guy. And he never made the Super Bowl with two teams. I think he only had one loss in his Vikings years, if I'm not mistaken. And, this guy, I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame or not. If not, he should be. I think he is. Should be in the Hall of Fame. The guy was a great quarterback. I think he's better than even better than Jalen Hurts. Of course, Jalen Hurts hasn't played enough yet to really make that a call, but I would say so. And he's better than McNabb. So I would have to go with Randall Cunningham, guys.
My choice would be Warren Moon. I think Warren Moon was probably one of the best quarterbacks. I mean, since he took Randall, and Randall would have been my first choice. I'm going to go with Warren Moon. Warren Moon definitely had all the skills, had the talent, was able to do a lot of different things on the field. I think he threw for over 40,000 yards. I know between both leagues, obviously, but was never able to get to the promised land here in the NFL. I feel like that puts him really into that top tier status.
That's a good choice.
Jack?
I thought of a few guys, and all of a sudden at the last moment, I'm calling an audible without you guys knowing who I was going to select. Wow, this is a late selection, and this is a surprise. Dick Butkus. Dick Butkus, he retired in 1973, didn't he? So the Super Bowl was going on for a few years. He had the opportunity to get in those games, as did Johnny Unitas, who was past his peak and played in a couple of Super Bowls. Dick Butkus, one of the great middle linebackers, maybe the greatest middle linebacker of all time. You could make the argument. So I'd say Dick Butkus. He's not associated with the Super Bowl because he was a rookie years before the Super Bowl was played, but the Super Bowl started kind of like in the middle of his career, but he was with such bad Chicago Bear teams that he never even got a whiff of coming anywhere close to it. But I'd say he was maybe the greatest player who could have been eligible for the Super Bowl and never played in it.
You know what? And the first, going on the non-quarterbacks, Barry Sanders.
That's my pick.
Yeah. And Jack, you could throw Gale Sayers in there with Butkus. He was a teammate of Butkus. and he never made the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that is a great point, Matt. You could easily pick Sayers over Butkus because they were same caliber type players, all-time greats. Yeah, very good point. Listen, there's another one you could throw in if you forget his personal life. I mean, Doc comes up with a great choice in Barry Sanders, but O.J. Simpson, I mean, was an all-time great player, as a player, and he never played in the Super Bowl.
LaDainian Tomlinson, he never did either, did he?
Yeah, I thought of him originally, but
he did play in the Super Bowl. They lost.
No, he didn't. No, LaDainian Tomlinson, he never got to the Super Bowl.
He didn't get there with the Chargers, that Charger team that lost?
No, Marty Schottenheimer was his coach. They came close, and they just didn't get there. Then he was with the Jets, and they came one game short for a couple of seasons. Under Rex Ryan. He just never quite got there.
All right. Well, that was a quickie. There was not a lot of discussion around that one. So let's go to this one. Not counting the New England Patriots losing their unbeaten record against the New York Giants, which team suffered the most harmful loss to their legacy in Super Bowl history? Which team's legacy? And you can't say the 2022 Eagles. You're not allowed to mention that. They haven't lost yet tomorrow yet. They might win yet. Who knows what's going to happen? But which team's legacy suffered the most by losing? And you can't say the Chiefs tomorrow either. So which team's legacy gets hurt the most by their Super Bowl loss? I'll give you mine.
New England, like you said.
Right, it can't be New England.
It can't be that one season the unbeaten run ended. Not counting them.
My answer is the Atlanta Falcons. That year they were winning, and I don't have all these things off the top of my head, but the year they were beating the Tom Brady
28-3.
Yeah, 28-3 with like 14 seconds left, and the Patriots beat them in a quarter or so. I mean, you have your legacy there as the great champions, the people who beat the Patriots. There's your legacy. You did it. You beat Tom Brady, and then you crumble. You are on top of the hill, on a hill that couldn't be taken. The impregnable fortress of Quebec, right? Like you could not be taken, and then you lost. Your legacy in shambles, and you never made it back. And Matt Ryan never made it back. So, like, I think that's a choice there. That's a pretty good one. What do you guys think?
I can understand that choice, but that comes under the classification of the biggest collapse in Super Bowl history. I guess that's their legacy. But the Atlanta Falcons would have had no legacy if they won the game. Not a real legacy beyond being a Super Bowl champion, but not a special legacy. They weren't considered an all-time great team. They were they'd be just another Super Bowl champion. So my answer is the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl III. Look, I'm a big Jet fan, as you know. The Colts had a better team than the Jets. They were a better team. The Colts were 13-1 that year. They averaged 28.7 points per game on offense and gave up 10.3 points per game. They dominated throughout the whole season. They had better players, top to bottom. I mean, if you just look at, just some of their players there, John Mackey, Bubba Smith, Mike Curtis, on and on and on. I could go down the list. I mean, either Hall of Famers or borderline Hall of Famers, yet that loss, that big upset to the Jets, no one remembers them. You want to know how great the Colts were? The year before they lost to the Jets in the Super Bowl, their record was 11 wins, 1 loss, and 2 ties, and they didn't make the playoffs under the old ancient NFL system. Imagine that. You go 11-1-2, and you don't make the playoffs. 2 years after losing to the Jets, with the same cast of characters, they won the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl 2 years later, an over-the-hill Colt team, okay? I mean, talk about a team's legacy. I compare the Colts' loss. It was as devastating to them as the Russians losing to the USA in the Olympics. The Russians had a better hockey team than the USA. in the 1980 Olympics. They were clearly better, yet they fouled up one game and lost it. So to me, it's the Super Bowl III, the Baltimore Colts, their legacy as an all-time great team. And some people were saying they were the greatest team of all time at that point until they lost to the Jets.
Are we talking teams or are we talking players? Which one are we talking? Teams.
Team.
I would have to say the Minnesota Vikings then. In their 4 Super Bowl appearances, not winning one, when they had one of the best teams in the NFC.
We're talking about one team. I think we're not trying to narrow it down to one team, not a franchise that lost 4. Because then you could say the Buffalo Bills, all 4 losses. We're thinking mostly, I think, one game. Maybe we didn't make the question clear. So,
I see. But on the Bills, with the Bills, you could say that when he missed the kick, that was the one.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the other 3 they got blown out. So with the Vikings, you could almost kind of, I don't even look at it like that. I look at it that missed kick. I guess that was the 15-1 season where they missed the kick. You know what I mean? But
that didn't happen in the Super Bowl. I know what you're saying, Pax. That team stands out to me. The one team whose legacy was hurt the greatest by not making the Super Bowl, not by losing the Super Bowl, were the Vikings that year. What a team they had, 15-1. They're up 7 points late in the game, about to make it 10 points, and game would have been over. Missed the kick, and then somehow Falcons score goes into overtime. That was maybe one of the biggest heartbreaking losses in NFL history with that Viking team, with Randall Cunningham.
Could you say the Eagles then, and them beating the Giants when the Giants were going to the Super Bowl, but they weren't able to make it to the Super Bowl? I mean, could you say that would have been a disappointing team?
No, but I would say more the Fog Bowl. The Fog Bowl happening. Is that, had that fog not come in, Eagles probably would win that Super Bowl. But the fog came in, and the rest is history. We lost that game. Chicago did not go on to the Super Bowl afterwards, but we're talking about devastating losses that stuck with a franchise for a while. That loss stuck with us for a while. We didn't, after that, the team kind of, got decimated because of the owner. Then you wind up having new ownership come in, and then the culture started to change a little bit. But ultimately, think about how that team was constitution made, and then instead the fog kind of ruined it all for a little while.
You're giving Doc an excuse now. He's probably going to say if the mosquitoes didn't come on the mound around Jabba Chamberlain, the Yankees go to the World Series. Come on.
If the mosquitoes didn't come on the mound, Jabba Chamberlain, the Yankees go to the World Series.
There you go. Well, I think there's a lot of examples you could bring up. You could bring up the Bears. Again, we talked about Buckus, and we talked about Sayers. I still think that the Vikings should have at least won a couple of those Super Bowls, but didn't. The Bills with their 4 Super Bowls. There's a lot of examples of this, guys.
All right, so let's go on to the next one. We're going to leave. Oh, no. Let's do this one first. One more football question. Oh, 2 more football questions. One of them, we may have to restrain Pags, but we'll get to that one next. First, which defensive unit was the greatest in Super Bowl history? So I'll go first, and I didn't even do the commercial this time because I didn't want to take away from the answer. But the answer has to be the Steel Curtain, right? With Mean Joe Green and Jack Lambert and all those guys. I mean, it's the Steel Curtain. You can't get through a Steel Curtain. They're the greatest defense in Super Bowl history.
They're one of them. That's the one I was just going to say. Thank you, Kyle. The 2000 Ravens. 2000 Ravens dominated, the Super Bowl. when they played the Giants. The Giants defense was even pretty good then, but they couldn't keep up with the Ravens. The second, I know we're not supposed to give seconds, but if there's a close second, it would have been the Bears, the 85 Bears, who, they went 15-1. I would say that they're one of the more dominating defenses also.
Pags?
That was what I was going to say, but since Mac went ahead and got two of them, he had the Ravens and then says, oh, well, it could have been the Bears. Well, that was my answer, the 1985 Bears.
Yeah.
Mac said it best for me. I couldn't have said it any better than how Mac put it. I would go with the Ravens. Steelers had the bigger names individually on defense, but that Raven team as a unit, if you remember the Super Bowl, the Giants couldn't even find the slightest opening there, and they had a really good offense. The Giants had scored 41 points, the week before, against the Vikings to go to the Super Bowl, a couple of weeks before, I mean. But there's this documentary on ESPN now, 30 by 30, called The Bullies of Baltimore, that talk about that team, led by Ray Lewis, Tony Suragaza, and all. What a team that was, I mean, defensively. But they only won one Super Bowl, and the Steelers won 4, so that's why the Steelers are remembered.
Yeah,
more.
how many guys on that Ravens team drank a Coke and threw their jersey to a little kid? Just
they throw their jerseys at the kid. Not
yes. And let's not forget, not because I'm a homer, the Big Blue Wrecking Crew with LT and Harry Carson and a great defensive line. I'll stop, Pags. They were a great defense too.
They were a good defense, a real good defense, but they weren't a great. They're not in that elite status. They had a couple of elite players. But they are not part of that elite status. No, they are not. They are not listed on the top 5 defenses of all time.
The Giant hatred is coming through loud and clear.
It's not giant hatred. It's just facts. Just because you like the team doesn't make that elite. Okay, that's just the way it works.
It has nothing to do with me liking the team. The facts are there, Pags. They went 14-2. They went to the Super Bowl. They dominated the Denver Broncos offense, especially in the second half. I think it was 10-0 in the first half. They were one of the most dominating defenses of the 80s. There's no doubt about it.
You're talking about the Giants.
Yeah.
And who is the greatest defensive player in the history of the NFL?
I think we all know who that is. I think we know that.
And who was a player on that Giants team that won the Super Bowl and dominated for years, like in that decade? LT. And they also had Harry Carson. And so I think you can't dismiss them as not being a great defense.
Right.
Yeah, I think that they were a great defense. I don't think that they were in the top 5 defenses of all time.
Maybe not.
Great questions. All right,
Hey,
Pags, are you still calm? Are you good?
I'm good.
All right, because this next question, this one could maybe upset you here. New York Giants safety Julian Love says that Philadelphia Eagles coach Nick Sirianni is along for the ride. He says there are plenty of other coaches who could have done what Sirianni has done with that team. Do you agree?
Now let's let the Giants fan open first.
Well, let's be honest. The Eagles have a great, talented team, sort of like the Lakers did, and the Bulls did. I don't think anybody could coach the Eagles to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl, but a good coach could. A very good coach could take the Eagles to the Super Bowl just on the players alone. They got one of the greatest defenses. There's a great defense in history too that hasn't won yet, but they 50 sacks. They got an offense that's high powered, great receivers, strong running game. That team is loaded. So I think Pags could go out there and maybe help them win a Super Bowl if he wanted to. So I think there's validity to that point.
Jack, what do you think?
I disagree with the statement. Look, sometimes I say in baseball, I could just write out a lineup card, put players on the field. But given games, you could get away with that. But somehow about football, there's a certain chemistry. Sometimes a coach knows when not to push buttons, to lay back, understand personalities. From everything I gather, the Eagle players like Nick Sirianni. I think he solves problems. Wasn't there a problem last year, Pax, with Fletcher Cox, the way he was being used? And wasn't that solved, it seemed? Because we haven't heard any blowback. Things have been quiet in that front, after play initially shows discontent. A lot has to do with problem solving. From everything I gather, the players both like and respect Nick Sirianni. Okay? And I don't buy that. We've seen how coaches could hurt a team. Look at Urban Meyer with Jacksonville. It was a disaster. Okay? And Nick Sirianni, there's no controversy around him. Everyone seems to be happy, content, their minds on football. They've been focused all season. Even though they had a little blip at the end of the year, they got things together for the playoffs. I don't buy this, that any coach could do what he's done. He's had a big background as an assistant. He's learned from the best. So give him his due.
I agree 100%. Then we'll let Pags go, and I'm sure he'll talk for a little while on this one. Listen, when the Yankees were winning all those World Series, Joe Torre, anybody could do that. You just put those guys in the lineup, anything can happen. But guess what? Everything didn't happen. Joe Torre was the guy who was the manager. I think it's so easy to say, just put somebody else in the manager seat and we'll get a better result. Or I actually, after they have a great result, to say, I could have done that. And you realize, no, you couldn't have. So Sirianni's the coach. He's the guy who brought the Eagles to the Super Bowl. That's the guy who did it. He's the guy who's there. So it's his team. All the little things that happened as a result of the Eagles starting from training camp and making it all the way to the Super Bowl happened as a result of his plan, his team, his method. When he called a practice one day and he said, we got to work harder. And when he called a practice short one day and said, go home, have fun, have a nice dinner with your family. I'll see you in 2 days, or whatever he did along the way, all of those decisions accumulated to make the team that it is right now. And we could say, well, if I have that kind of talent, I could win. No, you couldn't. That's his team. And the team is a reflection of the coach. He gets all the credit. The only guy that could have coached this team to where they are is him, because he's the guy that did it. Pags, it's all you.
So first off, I love, because it seems like all of the haters are absolutely coming out. And it's like, and I'm used to Giants crying, because they've been crying for the last 4 years since we lost that game, to Washington, that you guys didn't win the division with 6 wins, and I got Judge fired and stuff like that. But the answer to that question, and the best way I can explain that, is the dream team, the Eagles' dream team. Andy Reid, one of the best coaches in the NFL, who had all of the talent in the world given to him that year, didn't make it to the playoffs. And that's the difference. You know what I mean? So you still could have everything all put together for you. But if you don't have the continuity, and if you don't have the proper coaching, you wind up losing. And that's what happened. They said, we got this dream team put together, and Andy Reid, arguably one of the best coaches of all time, couldn't even get them to the playoffs.
Well, I think a lot has to do with the leaders in the locker room too. I think coaching plays a piece of it, but I think the leaders in the locker room are there to kind of enforce what the coach says, to help them, communicate with the players better. I know that there's been coaches that haven't been able to communicate with the team, and they elect, they put leaders in position to get their message through. So I think there's a lot to be said about leaders in the locker room. Those guys that Byron Williams talks about that help the team, get everything together and make a game plan.
No, I don't know. I think that we're talking about specifically coaches. I mean, there's a lot that goes into a team making it to the Super Bowl. There's a lot. You need the captains on the team. You need good coaching. You need to have continuity throughout the entire locker room. And that only happens by building a culture, a very specific culture. And you got to imagine that there are always ups and downs. That there's always things that come up. There's lots of egos that are, that are in that locker room. And somebody's got to be able to manage them all. It's not just one thing that says, okay, well, we have a lot of talent, so that means we're automatically in the Super Bowl. There's been tremendous teams that have been out there that had every piece talent and didn't make it to the Super Bowl or even the play, because the egos and the cancer that builds in that locker room is what takes over. And because of that, they can't make it.
Thank you, Terrell Owens, when he was with Philadelphia. That's what you could be referring to. Had he bought it completely, maybe that's a difference maker. Maybe they win the Super Bowl. Maybe. Maybe an outside chance. Have a little better chance.
Well, think about that. Think and that goes down to really just one guy. If Donovan McNabb speaks a little differently about Terrell Owens, and just a little bit has Terrell Owens' back instead of the controversy that it created, it could have been so much of a different team.
Yeah.
It fractured the entire locker room. You had Team Terrell and Team Donovan on that. And it just, and literally it destroyed that entire team that year. And then really went for an additional year after that. Think about that, because we were there in 2004, and then 05, 06, and 07, and that's when you started to have the dream team. You know what I mean? That's when it was 07 was the dream team, and then 2008 we get back there again. So it's there's a lot.
Well, that's
actually the dream team after that, but I mean it affected the Eagles for a couple of years.
Well, that's why, you, like I said, you need those leaders in the locker room. There's someone in that locker room that could have put Terrell Owens in the fray. Then the Eagles wouldn't have had that problem come Super Bowl time.
Let me ask Pags this. Who are the leaders in the Eagles locker room, you'd say, right now? With the Chiefs, it has to be Mahomes and Kelsey, okay? And a couple of other guys as well, But who within the Philadelphia is Jalen Hurts a true leader? I know he's respected and liked a great deal, but we're talking about the real leader now.
I mean, I think that there are a few. Obviously, I think that obviously Jason Kelsey is very well respected and very outspoken on this team, and they look to him for inspiration. I feel that Jalen Hurts is a leader on this team. That he may be able to get where he's at on the backs of people like Jason Kelsey and having friends like AJ Brown. You know what I mean? That may help. But ultimately, you think about this, when you lead, you are able to lead because the people around you allow you to lead. So that's the only way you're able to lead. If you have a coup against you, you're not going to be able to lead properly. And it doesn't matter how good of a leader you are. And that's the honest to God truth. So I feel that specifically, I mean, you have to have Jalen Hurts as one of the leaders. I think you have to have Jason Kelsey as one of the leaders. I think that Fletcher Cox, even though he has a lesser role here, he is
Hassan Reddick.
one of the leaders. I think Hassan Reddick just leads by example. I'm sure he probably has something to say, but I think that he's a lot more softer spoken in the grand scheme of things. I think that he lets other people kind of do the talking, like Brandon Graham. I mean, he's definitely a talker. You know what I mean? I think that he is somebody who the team looks for motivation. So I think that there are a lot of different leaders, and you have to have a lot of different leaders. I think Big Play Slay, is a leader on that team. And those are, the guy, when you need the inspiration, when you need somebody to kind of maybe do some of the self-policing that has to happen in the locker room to make that occur. There is that. However, all of those leaders all have to be dealt with the coach. And it starts with the coaching. And I feel like that was one of the biggest differences in the NFC Championship game. I think because Shanahan lost his poise, his team lost their poise. You know what I mean? I understand they lost their quarterback and it sucked. And then you get another quarterback out there and it sucks. But I think that he started to cry and complain about everything that was happening and all the calls that weren't happening with the refs because he lost control of the game and then lost his poise, and then his team started to be chippy because of it. You know what I mean? Because they were frustrated because they took on the same personality as the coach did at that time. And I think that's what happens sometimes. It's like your coach, your team takes on the personality of that coach.
I think Kansas City has more than one leader too. Mahomes, of course, is a leader. I think Travis Kelce is also a leader on that team, and the guy that plays in the middle of that Kansas City defense, I think it's Jones, is a leader for that defense. So Kansas City has more than one leader too, besides Patrick Mahomes.
Absolutely, and you have to. You can't just go out there with. These are 53 men. You can't just look to the coach. The coach has got a lot on his plate in the first place. So you have to have certain leaders. I'm sure that there is a designated leader for the defensive back, for the defensive line, then for the offensive line, and then for the running backs and wide receivers. You know what I mean? And then the quarterback itself. So, obviously there has to be a number of different leaders and that there's a structure amongst that leadership in general. But you got to be able to have that culture built. And that only comes from a coach. It doesn't come from anywhere else.
I agree 100%. And again, like you talked about T.O. and Randall Cunningham on the same team, right? So
T.O. and Donovan McNabb.
Oh, Donovan McNabb on the same team, and that became a problem. It goes back to our other question we were talking about before. They were both superstars. Do they each get their own trainer? Now all of a sudden you don't have cohesion, right? Like it just seems like it breaks apart. Here's a comment about Shanahan always falls apart and points the finger. We're actually I going back in the comments. Rick Sherlock let us know that he's actually going to a big event tonight, which is kind of fun, off topic, but he's going to meet Cecil Fielder and Charlie Hayes, two people who were on the 1996 world champion New York Yankees. So Rick, I'm jealous. So have a good time there tonight. Yeah. And let's move out of the realm of football for a moment and look to two other sports, baseball and basketball. We're going to compare them in a strange and interesting way. The other day, LeBron James set the record for the most points ever scored in the NBA. So the question is, which will be harder to break going forward? LeBron James's brand new NBA scoring title or Cal Ripken Jr.'s consecutive game playing streak? Which will be the harder record to break? I'll just jump in and give you my answer. It's Ripken. It's not even a question because players aren't allowed to play that many games anymore. No manager lets a guy play every day for the most part for a whole season, let alone for a decade. So I just can't see how anybody's going to break that. Obviously, LeBron James has just set the record, which means that's a record that just fell, which means it could obviously fall again. I don't see anybody coming near a Cal Ripken Jr. streak, but let's see what you guys say.
No, I was going to say LeBron James is, and I'm still going to say LeBron James is, but not at this point. If LeBron James plays one more year, I go with Ripken's record. But if LeBron plays 7-8 more years, and he's playing at a high level for half a dozen more years, do you know how out of reach he's going to put that point record? That means for it to get broken, a player of LeBron's caliber, and there's so few in history that come anywhere close, is going to have to come to the NBA out of high school and play till his mid-40s, injury-free at the highest level, night after night after night. It's going to be it'll be crazy for a player to play that long. That's if LeBron could play about 7 more years at his level. But if LeBron James starts tapping out in a year or 2, yeah, I'm going to go with Ripken's record. I know it's a bit of a cop-out, but I'm projecting LeBron James to have a good 7 years left where he's going to put this point total out of reach to a crazy degree.
Pack is rubbing his head.
There's no way he goes another 7 years. I see him going maybe another 2, possibly a third. Never, not 7. I mean, let's be for real. And that's going to eventually be broken because of the 3-point line and things like that. However, you can only possibly touch Ripken's record in baseball because of the amount of games they play per year. So you need to be able to have the longevity of the game to be able to do that. You need to be able to have 162 games a year to get close to that, because obviously 2,400. I mean, you're talking about now. That's what 16 years of playing nonstop, of being there every day. Truth of the matter is that there are people that work every day of their life and touch that record all the time. It's just never going to happen again in sports. That's like saying the RBI record. I think that's 191. Nobody's going to ever touch that too. But eventually, Joe DiMaggio's 56 game hitting streak. It's going to be really tough before somebody hits that. The closest that's anybody's ever gotten to it was Pete Rose at 44. So those are like some untouchables. I think that with basketball, I mean, if Stephen Curry decides that he wants to play for a long time, and he continues to hit the threes at the rate that he hits them, he's going to start to come real close, because he's able to score 3 points at a time and cut into it at 3 points at a time, 3 points at a time, 3 points at a time. So I feel that in basketball, there's always going to be the next one. Like LeBron James took over for Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. There's going to be a player that we don't even know yet that is going to have that type of mantle put on him. It could be John Morant. I don't necessarily agree with Kyle's pick of Anthony Edwards, but, like I said, he's biased on the way. I don't think anything like that whatsoever. But I think that there is going to be a player that is going to set that league on fire again, and is going to have the chance to be able to go that. You're never, ever going to be able to, because, again, you're right, the managers aren't going to let it happen. These players are so fully trained now, and the way that they go about things are so much different than the way they went about it back then, that I think that they are over in shape. You know what I mean? And I feel that being like at the top peak performance is part of the reason why sometimes you have a breakdown. And I think that back then it wasn't necessarily worried about being at your top performance. Hey, listen, there was probably plenty of games that, during that streak that Cal Ripken should have been sat, and he wasn't, because then he was kept going because of the streak itself. And that's part of the issue. If you were to have that type of streak, and then you go under a major slump, and he had some major ones. During that time, I remember specifically that the Orioles lost like 28 games in a row. I remember that one DJ tried to stay on the air until they were going to win a game. He made it for like a week and a half, and then that just quit because the Orioles didn't think that they were going to win a game ever. You know what I mean? They lost 28 games in a row. You better believe that Cal Ripken probably should have been sat during that time, because he had a batting average of like 0.37. You know what I mean? So but they kept playing him and kept putting him out there because he just had this record. So,
Mac, go ahead, Mac.
Well, let me get a few things in here. First, thanks for all the this is one of the best show I've seen with comments in a long time. So thanks for all the comments out there, folks. Keep them coming. You know, I think, and I'll get my pick. I think we put way too much in stats and records and all this stuff, when really the most important stat is to win and to win the big games. I mean, I get it. It's something to talk about. It's something for ESPN to show us and stuff. It makes it kind of interesting, but really it doesn't really mean nothing. I think LeBron James says all he cares about really is winning, and I think that's basically my feelings with that too. That being said, I think, you know, nobody thought that Ripken was going to break Garrett's record, right? Everybody thought that record was untouchable, but, you know, Ripken broke it. And you know, I think that LeBron James will play for maybe 3, maybe 4 years. He'll be at his peak, waiting for his son to get there, play with him a little bit, and then he'll say, see you later. I don't think his record will ever be broken unless what Pac says, somebody that we don't even know about yet, is so tremendous that he can, you know, that he'll do it. And we don't give LeBron enough credit for what he does as a teammate or what he does on the floor. He can play all 5 positions. He's 4th all-time in assists, if you like stats. But I don't think his record will ever be broken for a long time, guys. I really don't.
Mac, to say that the players like LeBron, he doesn't care about the record, that's ridiculous. Mac, he cares a heck of a lot about the record. Are you kidding me? All players do. All players. They think about it. You know, anyone who has a chance of that.
I don't think all players do, Jack. Are you going to tell me that Dan Marino thinks
when they're getting close?
Are you going to tell me Dan Marino is happy that he didn't win a Super Bowl, but he was the number 1 player?
Oh, everyone wants to win. That's a separate thing I'm talking about. Pax makes a great point that we got to think about. There are people in everyday life who never missed a day of work their whole career. They've worked like 40 years straight, and they've never missed a day. There are not many of them, but they're out there. And that's why I think Ripken's record is touchable. You got the DH, first of all, and it's got to be done by a star player. Once you have a star player who hasn't missed a game in a few years, he's got a streak of over 600 games, let's say. And the manager's reluctant to break that streak. So he DHs the guy, and then it just stretches out. It's going to be awfully hard to break Ripken's record. It might never get broken. I see that. A guy's got to play close to 17 years straight. So it's got to be a star player. It could be a young kid coming up from the Dominican Republic, for example, at the age of 20, who's outstanding, who has all this energy, and 6 years go by and he hasn't missed a game. And now they don't want to sit him down because he has a streak. And before you know it, with the DH, he's playing every game. I mean, it's doable. Like Mac mentions a great point, too. I think no one thought Garrett's record would ever get broken, and Ripken smashed it by 500 games or so. Yeah. So if Garrett's record that was unbreakable could never get broken, why not Ripken's? Why not any record?
Well, I think that's because Ripken's record harkens back to a different type of era and a different way people looked at the way sports are played. Today, there's so much emphasis on load management and players getting rests. Isn't that something in the NBA where they're even making rules to say, like, you have to make sure a player plays in a game or something like that?
I was just going to say, Doc, there is load management in the NBA, and whether you know, the league's coming down hard on it or not, what are they going to do? I mean, the guy is sick, the guy is hurt.
That's what I'm saying. And managers are going to make sure their players get days off.
Yeah,
I mean, look at even Aaron Judge with this home run thing. Oh, he got the record. He's so tired. And then the excuse during the playoffs was, well, it was so hard on him to get that home run record. That's why he didn't hit in the playoffs, because he was so tired, right? Like, we talk about this all the time. Aaron Judge is tired. He's too tired for the playoffs. The Yankees had like a week off or something like that, or 4 days off between their last game. But he had to sit the last game of the season. Think about all those guys, all those people that went down to Texas to go see Aaron Judge. And then he doesn't play in the last game because even though the Yankees have 4 or 5 days off, he needed to rest that day, even because he was so tired after setting the home run record. This is the way players are handled by coaches today. There's not a coach out there. There's not a manager out there that's going to say, yeah, I'm going to put your name in the lineup 162 times in a row. They just don't do it. They give players rests because the players go, I need a break.
I just thought of something that's absolutely insane, but I could actually see it happening in the future with what players have put in their contract. You get a superstar player. You get an Ohtani, for example. Let's say Ohtani tells a team, I'm going to sign with you under this condition. It's in my contract. You cannot leave me out of the lineup without my consent. I have to at least DH. You have to get my consent contractually not to be in the lineup at any point.
I tell that player, go find another team. This was some of the problems with Pete Rose when he was a player manager. No, like, I'm putting myself in the lineup, because I want to get the hit record, even though it's not going to help my team win.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this, okay? Is there at least all your answers? Isn't there one team out there, if they were willing to give Ohtani the money, would agree to that condition if it was a deal break, if it meant them getting him and not? Let's say it was going to go to the Phillies at a price the Phillies could afford, but it has to be in the contract. He has to be in the lineup. Now, the Phillies might be thinking, this Ohtani's a heck of a hitter. I'm willing to take the chance contractually to put him in the lineup as much as he wants, if that's the only way I could get him on my team, because I got him to pitch for me as well. As a DH, you could always put him in there. You have to.
Well, we're just throwing everything out there.
I'm just thinking, if that's a deal breaker, you might pay him.
No, I just, well, the problem I run into is that, okay, so now you have Harper that's coming back, and when he gets back from Tommy John surgery, is he going to, you're not going to have him in the lineup because you have to have this other player who has it, in his contract that he has to play. I don't know that you can put that into a contract without really hampering your manager. Now your manager is forced to play him, and it may not be the best case scenario. So now you're causing rift, and you're forcing a manager's hand. So I don't know that you could actually do it that way. But if you're maybe the Jets or you're the Mets, or the way that you guys build teams, maybe that's something that you could put in there. I can't see any good team or real team accepting that proposal.
I agree. All right, my dear friends, listen, we're at the top of the hour. We just had 2 hours of great sports talk. Some of the most brilliant minds in sports talking were with you in the comments and here in front of you. 4 of the greatest minds also were not here because there's lots of smart people that weren't on the show. So anyway, my dear friends, thanks for tuning in. Tomorrow is the big Super Bowl show. And then tomorrow, of course, is the Super Bowl live stream. Make sure you catch it. And listen, I'm rooting for the Chiefs. I'm a New York guy. I can't root for the Eagles. But for Pags, I hope for your sake the Eagles do well. I hope that you get them to have a victory and you can enjoy it. So everybody, thanks for watching. Have yourselves a happy and wonderful... Oh, wait, we got to put this up. Brilliant, guys. Thank you, Joseph. Have yourselves a happy and wonderful